So now what we're going to do is, to summarize, we're going to do the Q&A. We've got a bunch of questions that have been asked in the webinar. And what we've done is we've taken some of them down, and we're going to show them one by one on the screen, which you will see. And I'll take a shot at answering them. So the first question that you see over here is it necessary to learn Java for making Android apps? Definitely, Java is required to write a variety of Android apps. The key language to write Android apps, and which Google also promotes, is the Java development language. And basically, you can write in languages apart from Java also. For example, Android writing HTML5, CSS applications also, so that they run completely within the web browser of Android also. So there are two options. You can write using native Java language, or you can go down the web route and write HTML5, CSS, JS. There are people who are migrating, even what you call other platforms. So you can write in Python, you can write in PHP, and they generate Android bytecode. So there's a lot of work going on there, and you can be assured that as we go forward, more and more options will be available. But as of today, the best option available for you is to know Java language. You don't need to be an expert, but you need to know the basics to move forward. Okay. Okay, Abhijit Aya has asked a question. Can you please compare Android with iOS at a programming level? Okay, I'll just try to summarize in short that iOS, or basically the Apple ecosystem, that also has got similar tool sets. It's also its own equivalent language that you have to learn, which is Objective-C. So in terms of programming models, it's different. You need to know Objective-C for iOS, and you need to know Java of the Android applications. Now both of them are similar. They've got marketplaces. Android is $25, only one-time cost. iOS is $99 per year. Tool sets are similar. The same things you'll find. The SDKs, emulators are available on iOS. And even at the API level, there are comparative features available. So today, the kind of apps that you can write on Android are also available can be written on iOS, and vice versa. Android is a much more open operating system. So certain kinds of things that you can do on Android are not permitted on iOS as per the Apple guidelines and policy. But if you look at it at a very general level, both of the ecosystems are fairly good, fairly rock solid. They've got their own market share, about 40–45% each. So capability wise, both are capable, definitely. Okay, now Jason Verghese has asked a question. If it's forward compatible, why can't we build with 2.1? Sure. So at a high level, first to reiterate, Android is forward compatible. So what it means is that today, if you take an SDK of 2.1, you can take it. That's not a problem at all. Download 2.1, develop your apps with 2.1, and they will work on 2.3, they will work on 3x, they will work on 4x also. However, keep in mind that it is not, just to reiterate, to just answer your question, yes, you can build with 2.1 also. It will work fine on 2.3, 3.x, and 4.0 of the runtime. In terms of the SDKs available, just like any other software development, every newer version will have more features, more classes, more bug fixes done, and things like that. So the newer SDKs, if you develop it, you will get the benefits and extra features also. But remember, if you go on with the newer version, it's not going to be always guaranteed to be backward compatible. Yes, it will most likely work, but there will be situations where the backward compatibility cannot be guaranteed. And Android documentation helps you quite a bit to tell you that there are certain classes that you are using in, let's say, 2.3, which if you go to 2.1, it may not work. So when you are developing, you need to just pay a bit of attention to this. But I would suggest in one of the slides that you had seen that the 2.x version of the OS is present on nearly 94 to 95% of the devices. So I think it's best that as a developer you go with that starting version, so that you have nearly, I would say, even now if you add the tablet and the ice cream sandwich 4x version, you're probably going to end up reaching almost 96 to 97% of the Android devices that are out there. So yeah, you can go with a particular version. Forward compatibility, yes. Backward compatibility, please, you need to test to make sure it's not going to break on the older versions. Okay. Yogesh Gite has asked a question that are the tools available for both Windows and Mac? Yes, definitely. Whether if you prefer a Mac or even if you prefer Linux OS, there are tool sets that are available. The same tool set which I showed you, I'm using a Windows system over here, but the same tool set exactly is available on a Mac. And if you prefer Linux as your development OS of choice, even that's available. Go to developer.android.com and you will have downloads available for all three of these platforms. You are free to pick up any and develop. And these tools are not lacking in any way on any of the platforms. So it's pretty much uniform, free to pick and choose based on your preference. Okay, Vinay Kumar has asked the question, how much does a developer account cost? The developer account, to reiterate, costs $25, and this is not a per year fee. This is just a one-time registration fee that you need to pay Google. And once you're done that, this allows you to publish free as well as paid apps in the Android marketplace. So to reiterate, one-time fee of $25, that's it. This is different from in Windows Marketplace or the iOS iTunes Marketplace, which have a recurring yearly fee of $99 per year. So from a developer perspective, Android is, I would say, the most economical to begin with. Okay. Sai Kishore Reddy has asked a question. If you make apps and execute them in simulator, will they be compatible in all Android mobiles of different sizes? This is a very good question. And the short answer to this is that maybe not. Because what happens is that, as I said, every simulator, you have to specify what is the version of the Android that you are running it on. So in my case, I had created an Android virtual device with the version 2.3 of the OS. As a result of that, what is happening is that if the code is able to run on 2.3, that is whether it's forward compatible or backward compatible, it will run. But if it's not compatible with the OS version, definitely it will not run. Strongly recommended if you are creating any serious app to be put in the marketplace, or you're looking at writing commercial apps, you should have a device. Now let's also talk about the second question of your different sizes. Android provides a lot of documentation on how you can write your application so that the screens automatically adjust themselves depending upon the different resolutions. Android phones come in a variety of resolutions depending upon the price point. They range from lower resolution to higher resolution, and there are different screen sizes also available. But Android layouts support that the developer can write if you follow it correctly, so that the screens will accordingly adjust themselves. The buttons and other controls that you have will position themselves in the right places. So yes, you have to pay attention to it when you are developing the stuff. But yes, in simulator wise, the short answer is nothing like a real device. But you can create simulators for different versions to test out, and for different screen sizes, I suggest that you write your applications in the right way so that you can they size properly and the custom controls as well as other controls come out good. Okay, Abhijit, I had asked a question. How different is Android phone programming from Android tablet programming? Good question again. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that as you looked at the different Android OS versions, you can write applications running where you have compiled it with Android SDK 2.1, and they are going to run on tablets which are running 3.0 also. They are also going to run on phones in the future, which will be 4.x, or tablets on 4.x. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that a user experience on a phone is very different from the user experience on a tablet. And as a developer, you need to understand that and write your applications so that depending upon the screen resolutions, different screens come up. So for example, you may want to show only a small listing available on the phone because the screen size of a phone is much smaller. But on a tablet where you have much real estate, maybe instead of showing screens one after the other, you may have a left-hand side panel which when clicked will show the details in the right-hand side panel, or you can show a big map. So depending upon the screen resolution, Android supports that though it is the same code or the same functionality, you provide different screen layouts. And at runtime, Android will apply the screen layout to a phone, and depending on whether you're running on a tablet, it will apply the right screen layout to the tablet also. So yes, it's not a simple thing, but you need to keep a user experience in mind when you're looking at tablets, because the real estate is more, you may want to provide a different experience of how the developer uses your application. Okay, okay, we can go on for some more time with questions. What is an ecosystem is asked by Arijit Goswami. An ecosystem is, it's a general term, but when we are talking of an ecosystem here, I was referring to an Android ecosystem. And by ecosystem, it basically means all the players that are, involved in this. So right from Google, who is providing the OS and the support behind that, then in the ecosystem, you also have different manufacturers who are producing these Android phones and tablets. And then there are the consumers who are actually buying these phones, who are downloading the applications, who are using it. And then the most important piece in this whole ecosystem is you, that is the developers, who are also developing tools and giving the applications back for the consumers to use. So basically, it's all these players involved that are making the Android ecosystem very rich, because from a manufacturer's point of view, there are almost 50 to 100 plus manufacturers who are supporting it. That's why today you find manufacturers ranging from HTC to Sony to Samsung and multiple others who are coming out with various Android phones. Then there's Google, then there's the developers, and then there's this consumer. So each one working and feeding off each other, and it's quite a robust and rich Android ecosystem, which is only going to grow. So from a developer perspective, this is a great time to start developing and learning about Android applications, because the width and scope of Android applications, as you must be seeing, is rapidly being picked up not just by consumers, but you're also finding Android now making inroads into television devices, into completely UI-less, even driving dashboards in cars. So it's pretty exciting, because your same kind of code is going to potentially be running on devices which you can't even imagine right now, but you can be sure that there'll be some kind of Android version running over there. Yeah. Okay, D.T. Haklari has asked a question, how is what is the scope of Android developer in future? I do not want to be, there's another similar question by Sai Kishore Reddy, which is on a similar take, that is, can we take Android apps development as a profession? Simple answer is yes. You just need to, keep your eyes open. You're seeing a number of Android phones that are being bought by consumers, and this is just the tip. It just started, and in fact, if allow me to give you some numbers, almost 700,000, that is 7 lakh plus Android devices are being activated per day across the world. So you can just imagine that the kind of devices that are getting activated today and are going to keep growing. The ecosystem is fairly robust, great support from manufacturers. You know, also the very fact that Android is going to various other hardware areas also. I think it's a great time to be an Android developer. Nothing like it. And believe me, just take your first few steps. You will not regret it. That's my advice to you. And to reiterate, I mean, I've been working with companies. There's a lot of Android development that they are doing also. So, you know, there's quite a demand even from IT companies for Android developers. So it's quite healthy, the whole system. Okay. Any other questions are there at this point in time? If not, then we'll conclude this webinar. Okay. I guess that's about it. You know, okay, there's one that's coming over here. I think we've answered this one from Vinay Kumar, whether Java is the only program language via which you can write Android application. The answer is there is also a web route that you can go down through. So you can use HTML5, CSS also as an option to develop web applications. But these will be running within the browser, you know, on what you call on your Android phone. So at this point in time, the best environment with the maximum number of device APIs available is the Java programming language. So really, if you're getting started with it, I strongly suggest pick up Java. If you know any other high-level language, it should be straightforward to do it. Maybe we'll take a last question right now here from Manav saying this is the right kind of webinar to get me started. Great. I hope that everyone has liked this webinar. And I strongly suggest everyone to visit developerandroid.com, pick up a few more things, and you know, just give it a shot. And if you're interested in asking me any questions or looking at my course, you could just give me a call. So, okay, let's take in a last question so that you know, we conclude from there. So, how do you emulate pinch action in simulator? You know, the emulator or the simulator is basically running in your laptop. So, I'm afraid you can't move your fingers on a screen over here to emulate the pinch action. But in case you want to actually simulate it via some testing tools, you will have to raise those events programmatically. So you will have to say that an on-click got raised or a pinch got raised, or basically these are multi-touch events that get fired. So multi-touch means, you know, with more than one touch, two fingers, you can pinch or zoom. So you'll have to simulate these events programmatically. You cannot simulate it from the emulator that runs on your desktop, because that's not touch enabled, and basically the emulator runs in a virtual image of its own. Yeah. All right. So we'll conclude the webinar at this point in time. Thank you so much again for coming in on this Sunday. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for attending the webinar today. This is Ramin Irani from Mindstorm Software, and I wish to thank Span India for giving me the opportunity to conduct this webinar. Thank you and bye.